Learning Spanish for Beginners podcast, session 19. Shortcuts to talk about the future in Spanish. Welcome to a new session of Learning Spanish for Beginners podcast. In this session, we will learn a few shortcuts to talk about the future in Spanish. By the way, this podcast will focus on the Spanish spoken in Mexico, which you can use to communicate with Spanish speakers from all around the world. If you would like to learn how to talk about the future easily without having to memorize lots of conjugations, you can visit SpanishForAJob.com/future, where you will find a complete guide to talk about the future in Spanish without having to struggle with lots of future tense conjugations. To access the complete guide with shortcuts to talk about the future easily, you can visit SpanishForAJob.com/future. Using voy a before a verb in infinitive to talk about the future in Spanish. This is an easy way to talk about the future beginners can use to avoid having to conjugate all verbs in the future tense in Spanish. In fact, this is used by native speakers every day when they talk about their plans. I use it all the time. It is one of the easiest ways to talk about the future in Spanish without having to learn lots of conjugations. It is simple. You only have to add the phrase voy a in Spanish, which means I'm going to, before a verb in infinitive. Let's review a few examples to see how it works. Yo voy a caminar. I am going to walk. Yo voy a caminar. Yo voy a pensar. I'm going to think. Yo voy a pensar. Yo voy a viajar a Europa. I'm going to travel to Europe. Yo voy a viajar a Europa. The shortcut structure is first a personal noun such as yo plus the verb ir, which means to go, conjugated in the present tense, plus a in Spanish, plus a verb in infinitive. Let's review a few additional examples to see how it works when you want to talk about what you are going to do. In other words, for the first person of singular. Yo voy a cocinar. I am going to cook. Yo voy a cocinar. Yo voy a cocinar la cena. I am going to cook dinner. Yo voy a cocinar la cena. Yo voy a escribir. I am going to write. Yo voy a escribir. Yo voy a leer un libro. I am going to read a book. Yo voy a leer un libro. Yo voy a correr. I am going to run. Yo voy a correr. Yo voy a hablar con Luisa en la escuela. I am going to talk to Luisa at school. Yo voy a hablar con Luisa en la escuela. If you want to use this same shortcut to talk about the things other people will be doing in the future, you can change a pronoun and the conjugation of ir, which means to go, accordingly to match the person you're talking about. Let's take a moment to review the conjugation of ir, which means to go, in the present tense. I go. Yo voy. You go. Tú vas. He goes or she goes. Él va. Ella va. We go. Nosotros vamos. You go. Ustedes van. They go. Ellos van. And here are a few additional examples. Tú vas a visitar. You are going to visit. Tú vas a visitar. Él va a llamar hoy. He is going to call today. Él va a llamar hoy. Ella va a comer más tarde. She is going to eat later. Ella va a comer más tarde. Nosotros vamos a ver una película. We are going to see a movie. Nosotros vamos a ver una película. Ustedes van a venir al hotel. You guys are coming to the hotel. Ustedes van a venir al hotel. Ellos van a bailar salsa. They are going to dance salsa. Ellos van a bailar salsa. This is simple, and it is an effective tool for beginners who want to speak basic conversational Spanish quickly. So give it a try and practice your Spanish as often as possible. I hope you find these tools useful. If you would like to learn how to talk about the future easily without having to memorize lots of conjugations, you can visit SpanishForYourJob.com/future, where you will find a complete guide to talk about the future in Spanish without having to struggle with lots of future tense conjugations. Once again, to access the complete guide with shortcuts to talk about the future easily, you can visit SpanishForYourJob.com/future. That's all for now. If you would like to review a text version of these contents, you can access a PDF transcript of this session at learningspanishforbeginners.com/19. Thanks for listening to Learning Spanish for Beginners podcast. If you're enjoying this podcast, please leave a review and let me know what is your biggest challenge when it comes to learning Spanish so I can help you. See you next time. Hasta la próxima.